Hello, this is David Drake here, and I just wanted to offer sort of a spontaneous and personal note to share with you a bit about our upcoming Guiding Lights retreat. Before the pandemic, I spent a lot of years traveling around the world doing in-person retreats. They were some of the most enjoyable and satisfying work I've ever done in my life. The chance to be with people in real time, working on real issues right before our very eyes. Well, I don't travel as much as I once did. We discovered that we could do just as much almost online. And so it gives us a chance to save a bit of carbon cost, but more importantly, to make this retreat available to more people. We've run now a full cohort, but a fabulous time. And I want to share with you what I've observed about the retreats and why I am so proud of what it's becoming. We brought together two bodies of work in their retreats. One was my work on the five maturities, which is sort of a pathway to understand how to develop ourselves, particularly around our own maturation, and to be able to identify the areas of our life where we might want to spend some more attention. We live in a time where, even for people like myself and for all of you, it's sometimes hard to stay above water. There's so much happening that's challenging to our spirit, our soul, our psyche, and our lives, and lives of people that we care about. Well, it's hard to know how this will all turn out. What I do know is that we will fare better if we can ground and mature ourselves. And so part of how we've designed the retreat around these five maturities is to make the material quite simple. We're not going to overload you with lots of content, but rather connect you to some other amazing human beings with a very simple curriculum, a set of guided practices and meditations, and a journal space for you to write about where you're at yourself and the journey that you're going to be on. What we discovered in the end when we had our celebration of this cohort earlier this year was what people appreciated was their surprise at how sometimes it didn't feel like a lot was happening. And yet when they looked back at the end, they found that they had become a different person. They become more at peace, more present, more whole, less baggage, and kind of more able to rise to the occasion that we are in now. So, like I said, this is a group experience, both in a large group when we meet online, but also in small groups to go more intimate into conversation. And the other thing that we've done with this retreat, which I found really fascinating, was, as many of you who know me at all know, I've had some not so easy times in my life. The good news for all of us and for myself is I've used those hardships to understand how do we actually grow up and mature ourselves as human beings so that we can help others to do the same. And I used to teach a lot of programs, again, all over the world on some of these topics. And I decided to weave them into the retreat, not in a giant way, but in a very personal way, to help you identify one or two things in each of the five domains that might help you to make the most of your time in the retreat. And what we discovered is that each of these five gates acts as a threshold from one maturity to the next. And so between our personal maturity and our spiritual maturity often lies grief. What have we not let go of or say goodbye to or resolved that keeps us from seeing more of what's in front of us? Between spiritual maturity and professional maturity, we often discover our own attachment insecurities. It is hard to be secure from an attachment perspective in these very uncertain and challenging times. So to be able to be more competent is grounded in our ability to see more of what's actually happening, which then helps us or invites us actually to pay attention to how do we become more secure, more able to self-regulate. Because it doesn't matter how much we know or what we can do if we can't bring ourselves to use it well. So working with our attachment patterns is really helpful here. As we move through the model from our professional maturity into what we think of as our social maturity, our ability to read our environment, to use what we know well, and to get better at what we know, to increase our capability. This often requires moving through whatever trauma has been present in our life. And having experienced a number of traumas in my life, some more significant than others, one of the things about those experiences that's difficult and makes healing hard at first is they're very fragmenting. They're stored in our body, not in a narrative way, but in a physiological way. But we can use that to our advantage at that threshold in the retreat to look at where have my competencies masked what's really happening and who I really am. Where have I become, like, for example, a brave soldier, an overly helpful person, as a way to mask my own work I've not done on myself. And again, like all of these thresholds, we don't go into them super deeply, but we help you like identify what are one or two ways I can engage in things I've found traumatizing in my life that might free up the energy that's trapped there and build up awareness again about our environment, which is often damaged through trauma, so that we can be more present to what is and all of what is when we do our work and live our lives. And then as we come back around the top of the model, going from social maturity to contextual maturity, who we are, we often find ourselves addressing things that are in our body, the way we carry ourselves, where we feel pain, where we feel joy and aliveness, where we have sort of maybe contorted ourselves in response to stories we've carried for a long time. So as we embody our identity that as it evolves through the course of the retreat, we do some really fun activities around embodiment to help ourselves feel really rooted. And we go through all the chakras so that we can become the person we most want to become right now to pursue the things that matter most to us. And then lastly, as we come all the way through the cycle again through a spiral, we come to our last gate, which is our shadow. And historically, we've often thought of the shadow as a negative thing, but in reality, it's just energy. It's energy that's not part of our neat and compact ego or identity as we think we are, but it's actually around who we actually are. And what we find around moving into our identity here um, is that we often need energy that we've put away because it didn't fit or wasn't accepted or wasn't allowed. But it's actually the very energy that we need to move towards what we want the most. So perhaps in our shadow is the narcissist. Not that we want to become a narcissist, but there's something about like putting ourselves first, putting ourselves out there, standing up on stage, being bolder, that might serve you in terms of what you want most from your life right now. And so these five maturities and these five gates kind of work together to help us become much wiser and more grounded people so we can face the challenges that we're in the midst of right now with as much presence and purpose and peace as we can. And I know for myself, that's a daily chore in many ways, to keep coming back to center, to re-nourishing ourselves, regrounding ourselves, recentering ourselves. So this retreat is my personal gift to all of you. We've kept the price at a reasonable level to help you join with other people to walk with you on the journey that we're on right now to figure out what it is ours to do in this time. So for me, it means a lot to come offer this retreat to you. I learn as much as I think everyone else does in the retreat just by being present to the work itself. So I want to thank you for your time. If you're looking for a simple yet sacred space to kind of do the work that feels like it's right in front of you, for you to find a greater sense of peace and wholeness, then the Guiding Lights Retreat is for you. And so I'd just like to invite you to follow the link that will be at the end of this video if you're interested in either attending one of our Q&A sessions, which are coming up, and or to just register for the retreat straight away. I hope you'll choose to come join us, and I wish you all the best wherever you are in the world. Thank you.